Greetings and welcome to the Pampering Myself podcast, an advocacy for self-care. We'll laugh, we'll cry, and most importantly, we'll learn that you can't pour from an empty cup. You'll hear stories, interviews, and conversations which will empower you in living your best life. Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to our final episode in our healing series titled Making the Time. Just a brief recap. We started the year out with making a commitment to 2021 being a year of healing. Hopefully you've defined what that means to you and you're well on your way. And if not, it's never too late. May I suggest you listen to the episode titled Healing, the Power of Positive Thinking, because there's proven research that positive thinking can help you achieve a more permanent and optimistic attitude, which will lead to a healthier mental, physical state of mind. And in our third episode of the series, we learn not everything is for everyone. We as individuals have to define what self-care means to us and how it personally impacts us. I shared one woman's story and how a mind shift changed her life and how she looked and viewed self-care. And in this final episode of the series, we'll talk about what we all struggle with, and that's time. That is the most common reason why people don't practice self-care. And if you're like me, I have far more things to do in a single day than time allows, which means I have a list of unfinished projects, commitments, and things that stay on my to-do list way too long. Now, being overcommitment and too busy can lead to frustration and anxiety and depression. And when I find myself overwhelmed, I have to take a step back and reevaluate. And it was during this time of reevaluating things that I actually discovered self-care. Now, this was long before the word self-care was a buzzword. Back when it was all about long baths, scented candles, maybe a glass of wine, some relaxing music. I would even put one of those eye masks on and lay back in the tub, maybe even read an uplifting book. And I'd put a sign on the door that said, "Do not disturb." But what was most importantly is that it worked. It worked for me then. And that's when I took the time for myself. Now, some of those rituals I still practice. So I don't have to put the sign on the door anymore. But I do practice some of those rituals today. So what I've come to realize is I didn't really make me a priority. Or should I say, I didn't make my health a priority. Because I didn't associate self-care and health as being one and the same thing. And that was my aha moment. Because self-care is often looked at as being something selfish, but it's not. It's about your physical and mental survival. Really, it is. And there is a sense of urgency in today's climate that we practice self-care solely for our own physical and mental state of mind. Now, I mentioned before that I was working from home and that it was a challenge, especially in the beginning. But how time goes by. Think about it now. We found out about COVID, I'm going to say somewhere around the second week of March, and how I associate the days is that March the 18th is my anniversary. As a matter of fact, coming up will be 44 years. And we were planning to go out for dinner. And of course, we put that on hold because of this whole scare of COVID. So it's been almost a full year that I've been working at home. And it wasn't easy in the beginning, but I had to figure out how to make it work. And once again, that required me to step back and evaluate the whole scenario. And I did. And it's much better. So a lot of things have changed during the course of this year my sleeping habits, my eating habits, of course, the work environment and home were crossing over, and the list can go on, just like it did for you and millions of other people. But we had to come up with a survival plan. And that's how we have to think about self care. Finding that plan that fits into our daily lifestyle, because it's not a one size fit all. So I just like to share a few tips you might want to consider as you come up with that self-care plan or ritual that works for you. The reality is that everybody don't have a full hour or a lot of leisure time. So for whatever reason that you can't take a whole slice of time out of your day, like a full hour to do something, try smaller amounts of times. Maybe 30 minutes might work best for you, or 2 15 minutes, once in the morning or once in the evening, or even 10 minutes a day. Pre-COVID, I would sit in my car at lunchtime. Some days I'd read, some days I'd listen to music or podcasts, and some days I'd decide to walk outside or sit on the bench and soak up the sun. It was refreshing to have that midday break mentally, believe me, to just be able to step outside of my work environment and kind of rejuvenate, I'll say. Now that I'm working from home, well, it's wintertime, so it's too cold, plus there's snow outside. But when my granddoggy, and yeah, I said granddoggy, is here, that's my Dee Dee Boo, I'd stop and play with her for maybe 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, whatever it took, or for me to, number one, because I'm still entitled to a lunch, to break up from working at my table, and also to give me some relief, even though I am at home. Now, back in my younger days, when it came down to exercise, I would get up 45 minutes early every morning to exercise, because I had gotten to the point where I recognized the benefits of exercise, and mentally it would make me feel good. And by the time I got to that shower, I don't know if you all remember this commercial used to come on TV where they talked about stroking the work. I would actually felt like I could sing in the shower because I done exercised, my adrenaline got up in a positive way, and I felt pretty good. And when I got out and got dressed, it was a pleasure driving in to work, because we know exercise can change our mood. Now that's maybe something I might want to try now, because I don't get in much exercise, but I need to get in more than I am. So that might be a good idea, to actually get up early again in the morning. So another thing to keep in mind is sleep. Now, there are so many reasons why we don't get enough sleep, but please try to get at least 7 hours a night, because sleep is so important to our health. That's when our bodies rejuvenate themselves, and it keeps us alert and our well-being lifted. Otherwise, lack of sleep can cause all kind of problems. I'm just now getting back into the groove of a full night of sleep myself, and I think the uncertainty of the past years caused a lot of us some sleep deprivation. But we have to get a sufficient amount of sleep. That is non-negotiable. And that might mean, for some of us, putting down your phone, because that has a lot to do with the ability to go to sleep, as well as those televisions in the room. Now, I'm guilty. I have one in my room. I don't ever see me taking it out of my room. Although they say that you should not look at those bright TV screens or your cell phone before you get ready to go to sleep, because it's disruptive. And I can believe that. So I realized another area that might consume your time, again, speaking of telephones, is social media. Now, if you don't believe me, Take a look at how much time you spend on your phone. That was the greatest thing they ever came up with, was putting how much time you spend on your phone for you to be able to look at it. So when mine is down, I'm kind of excited. And of course, when it's up, well, I know when it's up. So I took a hiatus for about 20 days, almost closer to 25 last month. And I utilized that time for something else. I didn't get on social media at all. Now, generally, I may look at Instagram briefly, but on Facebook, because I'm in so many different groups for different things, I would scroll through just looking, watching videos, etc. But I decided not to look at any of that. Now, in the beginning, it was hard, but it gets easier as you go along. And I was more productive, and it allowed me time. Now, I know some think being on social media is relaxing, and I'm not here to tell you any different. If that works for you, then that's okay. But I challenge you to replace it with a good book, 30 minutes of meditation or mindfulness, a walk in the park, a scenic drive, even a phone conversation with a friend about the good old days. Just try that for 10 days. 10 days. I'm curious how many people will be able to give up social media for 10 days. If you can. And if you can't, then you know there's an issue, because that's something you should be able to do. Now, if you use your phone for work, that's one thing. But if you're using it just to see what's happening on social media, that's a whole nother ball game. Now, I'm willing to bet, as a co-worker of mine used to say, my neck on a chopping block, and I ain't got but one, that you'll find something to benefit from when you disconnect. Something. Think about it. What did we do before social media? Now, if you're one of those people who spend hours, then that really tells you you have time for self-care. So don't use the excuse, oh, I don't have any time. I'm too busy. I work too many hours. The kids keep me up. If you just take away some of that social media time and do some of those things that I mentioned that are more productive to your health, then you'll see some changes. And if not, then you have decided to choose that over your well-being. Try that on. So I encourage you to find what works for you and to create your own rituals. Set your goals, make them a priority. And if you fail, brush yourself off. Get up, start over and over and over again. Because motivation is what keeps you started, and habit is what keeps you going. By John Rowe. And so I say to you, have a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in, listening to this healing series. Hopefully it was helpful and that you will find something useful out of it, and even just consider what you can do to create a plan of healing from the inside out. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to pamper yourself. Have a great day.